Well, hey there. I'm Joe Shepard, and I am an instructor here at Nashville Software School. And if you're an incoming student or someone just curious about how the NSS learning experience works during this time of online work and schooling, you've come to the right place. So the environment that you see here in this video is a streaming app called Zoom. And this is what we actually use and what you will be using in your upcoming cohorts. It has a lot of great tools for communicating with everybody that's logged into the session. It includes chat, screen sharing, the ability to record the session, which is what we're doing right now, so that lessons can be recorded and students have a chance to play them back later and review what's been going on. So a lot of really nice things to bring some connectivity and intimacy to the proceedings. And as you can see, it also allows you to see and interact with all of the other people that are in the classroom. So who are these folks up at the top of the screen? These are current NSS students. And they've joined us to talk about their experience with our online classrooms. Hey, everybody. So we've got Crystal here from our full-time web dev cohort number 39, and Debron from our part-time data science cohort number 3. Trinity is there on the end from our web dev full-time cohort number 38. And Jacob has joined us from evening web dev cohort 10. So we've kind of got the whole NSS education experience summed up in these guys here: evening, daytime, data, web dev, full-time, part-time. So each one of them is going to share a little bit of their experience with you about how they've adapted over the last few weeks. So everybody, it's been a weird few weeks for sure. Kind of an unexpected experience, but what's it been like for you? What concerns did you have when you learned we would be needing to move from in-person to online? Crystal, why don't you go first?
Sure. Honestly, I think the most difficult part was starting in a human environment and transitioning into. I'm hoping for our future cohorts, it might be a little bit easier to start remotely. But just for the first couple of days, because you get into such a rhythm, you're used to interacting with your classmates, being able to lean over and going, ooh, this broke, can you help me? Or can I look at your code? Being able to interact in person, the adjustment for me was hardest trying to absorb information and process information through a screen. And the first couple of days, I felt my attention span being a little bit wonky. But after the initial couple of days, just like I haven't been in a classroom in over 10 years. So just like I had to adjust being in a classroom for the first time again in 10 years, really just had to adjust to the change in environment with this as well. And I was mostly concerned that if I wasn't able to pay attention as much or absorb as much digitally, that I would fall behind. And I think our class feels on track. I still feel on track. I think adjusted. I think.
Good. You think. Jacob, how about you? What were some of your concerns when we were converting to online learning?
Yeah, I think that I had a lot of similar concerns to Crystal's. Like we started in the classroom, we got familiar with each other and our professors or our instructors, and it was weird to shift from a very tactile experience to a very remote experience. But I think that it's still been really good and beneficial, I think largely because of how intentionally the instructors have looked for our feedback. Overall, I think that one of the things that makes NSS stand out is the community that it has built both internally and connected to the rest of the tech community in Nashville. And that hasn't gone away. Like watching our career folks, like helping students who've been laid off, like try to find temporary work while they finish, like watching instructors take extra days to do code along exercises remotely because that works for the class. So it's been weird, but it's something that we're adjusting to. And I think that we are learning how to use the Zoom tools that let you take control so we can like help each other code at the same time. We're learning how to set up other Zoom rooms so that it's the most effective like way to have a study group. And it's just a different learning process that's been added to our current learning process.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm my class that I'm currently working with is actually going through their very final capstone. So today actually would have been their that we're recording this would have been their graduation day. Um,
Oh,
um, and they've been working furiously on those final capstones. And one of the things that we've learned is that having those that Zoom gives us that ability to create what we call breakout rooms. So even though there's one big classroom here where everybody's in this one video view, we've been creating these little side rooms where instructors or just small groups of students that want to kind of collaborate with each other can go off into these breakout rooms, and it's just that those two people or those three people or those four people working together, and it makes a nice uh, it helps recreate a little bit the experience that we have at school where students come up and sit down right next to an instructor, or they gather together in the hackery and push some tables together and work together. So I think that's helped a lot too. All right, Debron, how's your experience been with data science?
Yes. So initially, when we found out they were going remote, I got a little nervous, to be honest with you. The reason I chose NSS is because everything is done in person, and jumping into the data science field is something brand new to me. So it's a complete shift of a career. And I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. All sorts of like anxiety coming up, but I feel like just like anything in life, you have to adjust and adapt. And slowly but surely, I think it's getting better and better. And I really want to give a shout out to my instructors, our instructor Michael and his assistants Glenna and Hari. They go above and beyond to make sure that they're in constant communication with us, and that makes the transition extremely easy, to the point where it almost feels like we're still in the classroom because they're in constant communication with us. And I think that has helped out a lot in the transition
Awesome.
overall.
Good to hear. I should try doing that. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Trinity, how about you?
Well, I know for me, I tend to, or I feel like I work a little better by myself, which is one of the things that I wanted to work on while going to NSS, because I was around more people. I had access to, one, learn from others, and kind of for them to learn from me, because I feed off of people's energy. And so starting remote, it was starting out, it was okay. Because it was kind of perfect timing. We had just set up an office space at our house, and we just started our individual capstones. So there wasn't too big of a concern, but I do feel like being remote, I've had to force myself to reach out to my instructors. I've had to force myself to reach out to other students, because my nature is just to work by myself. But though that was my only concern, really, just forcing myself to remember that I am on a team with other people and that they're instructors. So
Yeah. How about any of the rest of you? As far I know, you guys were just doing capstones, but have any of the rest of you been doing any kind of group project work while remote? How's that been going for you?
we're currently on our third class group project, and I would say the flow is fine, just in the same way that kind of the classroom flow adjusted to being remote. It's been pretty easy for us to jump into our breakout rooms and work together, or jump into someone else's. Our system is to ping our instructors on Slack if we have a question, and they can jump into our breakout rooms. So really everything feels just as accessible. I think it's working fine. And we use like the sketchboard. So even being able to share screens and sketch out dependency graphs and all kinds of things hasn't slowed us down.
Oh, that's good. It's good to hear. Yeah, I know. One of the tools that that's even a little bit new to me that we've been using that's been super helpful as instructors is with with VS Code, which is the code editor that all of our students use. There is actually a plugin you can install on that called Live Share, and it allows you as a student to share your entire editor and even the browser that you are running your app on with somebody else, of course, including an instructor. So it's been really helpful for us as instructors. We can actually take over your code and scroll through it and you know, type in your code and run it for you. And it really has helped us with debugging and kind of that one-on-one help with students. So that's a thing that I know that some of the students have been doing with each other during these group projects too. So, you know, all of you, of course, had to interview to get into NSS. And I know that I do a lot of interviews. And one of the things that I hear constantly from folks is, you know, we tend to ask, why do you want to come to NSS, you know, when you can just stay at home and code in your pajamas, because there's 1,000 online resources out there. You know, there's Team Treehouse and Free Code Camp and Code Academy, et cetera, et cetera. And the response that we typically get back is, well, I really want that in-person experience. I learn better in person than I do online. And so some of the concerns we've been hearing from applicants and upcoming students is, well, does this mean that NSS is just going to be another Code Academy or Team Treehouse? Who would like to speak to the difference between what we've been doing at NSS online versus outlets like that?
I'm happy to talk about that a little bit.
Great, thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, so my first experience with Team Treehouse was during pre-work last summer before E10 started. And that was the most useful, like, self-service resource that I had found up to that point. I'd tried to teach myself to code a bunch of times before, and doing pre-work with Team Treehouse for NSS was the first time I'd really felt any success. So I already felt positively about things like that, but I still chose to come to NSS and was lucky enough to get in. So when we moved to the remote, the whole remote thing, it was also different because we're a night class. So it was people finishing dinner with their families and then immediately going into class, or getting home from work, taking a shower, and jumping into class. One of the ways that we found to keep things feeling similar to class is using a lot of the tools that Zoom has, like the hand raise feature. A lot of our quieter students have had to get better at being more assertive with asking questions because there's no visual feedback. Like, the instructors can't see your face and don't see your instructions while they're screen sharing, or don't see your expressions while you're screen sharing. So it's harder for the instructor to read the room. So we've had to learn how to be more proactive and explicit about our communication, like saying exactly what our problem is, saying where we're having trouble understanding, or asking the instructor to repeat things. Since it's still a live experience, I think that that is a big part of what separates us and keeps us from becoming just another Team Treehouse or Code Academy. We have access to all of these resources already, but it's the live instruction and one-on-one attention with the instructor and with the TAs and like that community with your small groups and the rest of your cohort that I think personally like sets us apart from just another online resource.
Cool. Has that been everybody else's experience? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, by all means. Our instructor, Steve, is always telling us too that programming is a team sport, which I'm with you, Trinity. I also love working alone. But it seems to me probably with resources like that, that's a big aspect of what you're not learning. One of the main reasons I picked NSS is specifically because of the job placement rate. I wanted a really results-oriented program. And now being able to say that you've done school remote and done group work remote, done programming remotely, I think really just adds to the marketability. So in some ways it feels like, oh, it might not be the same, but in another way, it's actually also adding to our experience when it comes to applying for jobs, being hired for jobs, being considered for jobs. In that sense, it's a very realistic bonus. I think too, I agree with Jacob, our couple of tips I would give would be to be vigilant about having people have their cameras on. It feels a lot more personable when you're in class, even if no one's really talking and you're just listening, to be able to see people's faces. And like our team, a lot of times will still do like team happy hours on Friday, and Steve will just leave our Zoom up. So we get that time to have that personal team oriented feel, so that we're not always just like talking coding, leaving the room, talking coding, leaving the room. So I feel like our class is doing a great job at still maintaining that personal like interaction. Plus you get to see people's dogs, you know. Right.
Yeah, I've seen so many dogs in the last week. It's awesome. And kids running across the camera, you know, so.
Yeah, our first day of class was just a Zoom screen of everyone's dogs. Like, it's awesome.
I love it. I love it.
I wanted to add on to
yeah,
that.
Please do.
Really, the reason I chose NSS was also because of the job placement was so high. And another thing is, so I'm also in school getting my master's, and I don't want to say anything about the academic part of it, but I feel like I've learned more in NSS than I have in all of my education career. And the reason for it is because it's so like real life based. Whether it's projects or whatever assignment that we're doing, it's actually a real world. Whereas in academic, yes, you're reading and you're learning a lot, which is great also, but when you get out of it, you're almost like, okay, what next? But with NSS, I feel like it prepares you extremely well to tackle these real world problems when you get out there. And I mean, I feel like I'm learning so much so fast that I just can't wait to see what the next chapter holds for me.
And I'd like to add a little bit to it too. I really agree with everyone on this because beforehand I had been playing around with Free Code Camp, with Code Academy, with Treehouse. I even took a couple programming classes in school. And from those, yeah, I learned a lot, but I feel like I plateaued. So coming to NSS, I feel like my rate of success has just like shot up real quick like a rocket. I think it was because of access to all the instructors. Definitely in group projects, I learned a lot how to work with different personalities, how to be a leader, how to be a follower, and just having access to all these people and like all the resources has helped.
That's good to hear. I have one more question for you guys, and I'm going to let you get back to work because I know you've all got things to do. I know that some concern has been expressed by some folks about whether or not we've been able to kind of carry over the whole curriculum to online. Do you get the sense that that anything's been, you know, there's any corners have been cut, or that anything's been cut out of the curriculum, or any or part of that experience, or do you feel like you're still getting everything that you expected to get out of NSS while working remotely?
If there has been, I have not noticed it. The curriculum seems pretty much the same. I think the only thing that feels a little bit different is being remote and being in your own space. You have to take a little bit more ownership of your environment and your focus. So I think keeping your routine consistent is good. Having a space where you work that's free from distraction is good. But as far as the actual curriculum, I haven't noticed that we've been skipping anything. I don't feel like our class has fallen behind or that I've fallen behind. I feel like our instructors are incredibly thorough and really good about making sure that we're all where we need to be.
I mean, the NSS experience is described as drinking out of a fire hose a lot. And I think the difference between like a really big fire hose and a slightly smaller fire hose, it's still a fire hose. So if anything is missing from the curriculum or we've had to cut anything out, I haven't noticed it yet. Our instructors have also been really transparent about the fact that they're adapting and changing the curriculum as we go through it, because this is new for them too. And so they've been really great about saying, hey, like, we're going to try this and see how it works. We're going to like pull this new project instead of this different project because we think it applies these principles better. So even watching our curriculum get updated and changed throughout the process has been really encouraging, just as like a reminder of how much NSS wants you to succeed. Like yes, like, yeah, that's it. I don't have anything else to say.
That's a great analogy. I loved it.
Yes, we have the fire hose is still spewing full blast. I can assure you of that. And yeah, I'd like, Jacob, that you mentioned that there's actually been some things added, because we are this has caused us to actually add some more things and some more resources for our students. I know that just today we've been adding some very detailed, explicit videos for people to help walk them through some of the early installation and other things, just when we get up and running with a brand new cohort that weren't resources we had for students before. So yeah, it's actually causing us to add some more things to the curriculum to help people get over some of those early humps, especially. All right, gang, we could talk all day, but I know you got things to do and places to be. Well, maybe just things to do. So I really appreciate you taking some time to talk about your experience, and for you folks watching, for you incoming students, for you applicants, I hope this has given you a clearer idea of what it's been like to transition to online learning here at NSS, which of course is going to be temporary. We just don't know how temporary, but while it's temporary, it's another exciting opportunity to experience something you've never experienced before. So thanks for checking us out. And again, if you have any questions beyond what you've seen today or heard, you can always reach out to us at NSS through info@Nashville Software School or any of the other links that you found on the website. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Have a good weekend. Take care.